Buddy, we're going deep today. We're diving into Bertrand Russell and his A Free Man's Worship.
Oh yeah, this one is a thinker.
Got both the essay itself and a pretty insightful critical analysis to go with it. So,
Yeah.
should be fun. You know, it's all about finding meaning, right?
Right.
Even if
Right.
the universe doesn't really offer any. But here's the interesting bit. What if real freedom, like true freedom, what if that comes from, worshiping the things that we create? Not like bowing down to death or a chaotic universe, stuff like that.
It's a powerful idea. And Russell, he presents it in such a thought-provoking way and a little dramatic, I gotta say. He starts with, well, you wouldn't expect it in a philosophy essay, but he starts with the devil.
Whoa, okay, hold on. The devil. Like,
Yeah.
literally?
Yeah.
How does that even fit in?
He's in a speech, actually, talking to, you know who Dr. Faustus is?
Yeah, the deal with the devil guy.
Exactly. So the devil's giving the speech to Faustus, and it's this cynical, like, almost mocking take on how the universe was created.
So, like, the devil's giving us Cosmology 101.
Kind of. He talks about this chaotic beginning, fiery nebula, planets forming, everything cooling down, and then bam, life. It's actually very close to what science says,
Yeah, I can see that.
But of course, the devil being the devil, he thinks it's all a bit of a joke, especially the part where we show up.
Humans.
Right. Yeah. Us. Yeah. He finds that hilarious.
I bet he does. But so where do we fit into all this according to Mr. Devil?
Well, he says we're kind of a contradiction. We have this deep need to worship something, something bigger than ourselves. He calls it a cruel thirst for worship.
Cruel thirst. Wow.
But at the same time, he says the universe doesn't actually have any meaning, like at all.
So we're searching for meaning in a meaningless place. Kind of a bummer, isn't it?
It's definitely, it's a starting point, a provocative one, Russell's setting up this tension, our need for meaning versus a universe that might not care. But it's not all doom and gloom. This is where he starts to talk about, a free man's worship.
Okay, so not giving up on worship altogether.
No, but he looks at how worship itself has changed over time. He talks about these savage gods, right? The old gods, the powerful ones, the ones who demanded sacrifices and all that.
Right.
He uses Moloch as an example, like, child sacrifice. Pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a bit different from, what we usually think of.
Definitely. But it shows how early worship, it was all about fear, about pleasing these forces, these powerful forces that seemed uncontrollable.
It makes sense, in a way. If you're afraid of the unknown, you want to try to control it, I guess.
Exactly. It's like that cruel thirst the devil is talking about comes from a very primal place, right? Wanting order in a world that feels chaotic.
So how do we go from that kind of worship to something, more free?
Well, Russell says that as our sense of morality changed, so did what we saw as worthy of worship. We stopped just trying to please these scary gods, and we started to, recognize ideals, internal ideals, our own sense of what's good.
So not worshiping what's out there, but what's in here.
Yeah. Like recognizing goodness as something we choose, something we strive for.
It's a big change.
Huge change. And then you have this interesting tension, like, do we worship these external forces, like survival of the fittest? Or do we worship the good that we decide on, that we define for ourselves? And this is where his free man's worship really starts to come in.
All right, lay it on me. What is this free man's worship? What's he actually saying?
He says, and this is a big one, he says, true freedom comes from worshiping the God created by our own love of the good.
Whoa, hold up. Did he just say we create God? I thought we were getting away from traditional religion here.
He's not talking about God, like, literally. It's more of a metaphor.
Okay.
Like, he's talking about a set of ideals, our own temple built on what we think is good, beautiful, true, the stuff we find in art, philosophy, deep thinking.
So we're still worshiping, but the focus is shifting.
Yeah. From external deities to what we create internally. It's about making our own set of values and trying to live by them.
I get it. But how does that actually work? How do you put that into practice?
That's where renunciation comes in, which is like a big part of his argument.
Renunciation.
Yeah, he says it means accepting our limits. Like, we all died eventually, and the universe, it might not care about us at all.
Yeah, A little harsh.
It's real, though. But here's the thing, accepting that, it frees our minds. It gets
Uh,
us out of this cavern of darkness, as he calls it,
a cavern of darkness sounds rough.
full of abandoned hopes and all that.
So by accepting what we can't control, we're freer.
Exactly. It goes back to that tension we were talking about. We stop trying to control death, the universe, all that, and we focus on what we can control, our choices, our actions, the ideals we live by.
This has reminded me a lot of Stoicism, like accepting what you can't change and focusing on what you can.
Oh, totally. That idea is central to both. Accepting limitations and choosing your response. It's about finding that inner strength to deal with the world even when it's tough.
So we're not ignoring the dark stuff, but we're choosing how we react to it.
Exactly. Finding meaning and purpose, not by pretending everything's perfect, but by creating things, taking action. And that brings us to one of the most interesting parts of the essay. He talks about tragedy.
Tragedy, like the sad stuff.
Yeah, he says it's actually the highest form of art.
Wait, really? How does that even fit in with all this freedom and meaning stuff?
It's where Russell gets super poetic. He says tragedy is the most proud art form because it looks right at the hard stuff, death, suffering, all that, and it finds beauty in it.
So acknowledging the darkness, not hiding from it, makes us appreciate the beauty even more.
Yes. It's about embracing the whole human experience, the light and the dark, and finding meaning not in avoiding the hard stuff, but in how we deal with it.
Now,
How we create good things even when it's tragic. Yeah, it's about seeing the beauty even when things are tough. And it's interesting because this is where Russell's background as a mathematician really comes into play.
Oh, how so?
Yeah.
Math and existentialism. That's kind of a jump, isn't it?
Well, you see, Russell, he wasn't just a philosopher. He was a brilliant mathematician, a logician. And that part of him, it was always looking for, a solid foundation for morality, a way to base our values on something real, even if the universe doesn't seem to care about them.
So it wasn't all just like feelings and faith for him.
No, not at all. He believed that reason and intellect were really important for figuring out life, for creating a strong moral code. He wasn't into emotionalism or dogma. He wanted a morality based on really thinking about what good truly is, like a morality that's actually worthy of our worship.
Okay, it's starting to see how it all connects. But let's get down to brass tacks here. If we're talking about building this temple of ideals, what's in it? What would Russell say are the things we should be worshiping?
He talks a lot about beauty, truth, and the pursuit of knowledge, really searching for understanding. He thought art, philosophy, science, those were all ways of connecting with something bigger than ourselves, something that goes beyond our own limits.
Right, right. Those things can definitely make you feel a sense of awe, like you're part of something huge. And I can see how that ties back to his ideas about tragedy. It's not about pretending the world is perfect. It's about seeing the beauty even when there's suffering and loss.
Exactly. It's all about having a mindset that allows us to appreciate everything, the good and the bad. Remember, he's not saying we should be naive or ignore the hard parts of life. He wants us to face reality, but to find the meaning and strength within that reality.
That reminds me of something in that critical analysis we read. It talked about how, for Russell, worship was about developing a kind of inner strength, a resilience.
Yes. The analysis pointed out that a free man, for Russell, is someone who has broken free from fear, from needing other people to tell them what's right. It's about having your own internal compass, your own sense of purpose that guides you, even when things are tough.
I'm starting to get it now. It's not about living in a fantasy world. It's about facing the real world, accepting everything it throws at you, and then finding your own meaning and strength within it.
You've got it. And we shouldn't forget that Russell wasn't advocating for, a solitary life. He believed in the power of human connection, of people working together to make a better world.
Right, he talked about shedding light on each other's paths. So it's not just about finding our own individual meaning, but recognizing that we're all in this together, right?
Exactly. That idea of shared humanity is super important to his whole vision. It's not just about personal satisfaction. It's about contributing to something bigger, working together to leave the world a little better than we found it.
This is all pretty inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put it into action? Like, what can we do to live by these ideals?
That's a great question. It's something Russell himself struggled with throughout his life. He was a huge advocate for social justice, peace, and education. He thought those were the keys to creating a world where everyone has a chance to live a meaningful life.
So it's not just about thinking big thoughts. It's about doing things, making a real difference.
Absolutely. Russell believed that true freedom comes with responsibility. We have a responsibility to use our knowledge and abilities to make the world more just and compassionate. And it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process, a journey that takes constant effort.
I can definitely see how this essay, even though it was written so long ago, still speaks to us today. We're living in a world that can feel really chaotic, really overwhelming. It's easy to lose sight of what matters.
That's exactly why Russell's message is so important even now. He reminds us that we have the power to choose what we focus on, what we value, what we aim for. It's like a call to action to reject negativity and cynicism and, embrace a more hopeful, more compassionate vision of what it means to be human.
So it's like we can't control the universe, but we can control how we react to it. We can choose to focus on the good, to build something beautiful and meaningful, even when things are dark.
You got it. And that's what makes Russell's philosophy so powerful. He wasn't giving us simple answers or easy solutions. He was asking us to look inward, to grow, to constantly figure out how to live a good life in a world that's often complicated and difficult.
I think I'm starting to understand what he meant by a free man's worship. It's about taking responsibility for our values, finding our own meaning, and using that to have a positive impact.
You nailed it. It's a philosophy that's about thinking deeply, AD taking action, about growing as individuals, ND working for the common good.
It's a challenge, that's for sure. But it also offers a real sense of hope, a sense of purpose. And that's something we could all use a little more of, right?
For sure. It's about realizing that even though each of us is just a tiny part of this vast universe, we still have the power to make a difference, to create beauty, to be kind, to leave the world a little bit brighter.
That's a pretty amazing legacy to leave behind, don't you think?
Absolutely. It is. And what's amazing is it doesn't have to be, these huge things, these big accomplishments. It's the small stuff, too.
So, like finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, just choosing to be kind, making something beautiful, really connecting with people.
Exactly. It's about having that free man way of thinking. But in everything you do, how you treat your family, your work, how you interact with everyone, everything around you.
You know, it makes me think of something Russell wrote about the past. He said it was like those autumn leaves.
Mm.
Beautiful, but, they're about to fall.
Yeah.
But they still have that color, that glow.
It's such a beautiful image, yeah. It's like even though our lives are short, we all face death, there's still something that lasts. The impact we have on others, the memories, the good things we bring into the world.
It's like our lives are those leaves.
Yeah.
Temporary, yeah. But the color, the mark we leave, that can stay.
Yeah, it's a powerful thought. And it goes back to what Russell said about compassion, about connection. Our lives are all tied together. We can make each other's lives better, leave a good mark, even in little ways.
It makes me wonder about my own temple, what I build based on all this.
That's a good question to think about. Russell would say it's a lifelong thing, figuring that out.
So not like a set of rules, right?
Yeah.
More like being open to changing, to new things, to always refining what really matters to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this whole idea of a free man's worship, it's so powerful. It's not about fitting into someone else's mold. It's about figuring out what resonates with you deep down, what gives your life meaning.
This has been a fantastic deep dive. Really got into it today, huh? From the universe to tragedy to building these temples in our own minds.
It's been a real exploration of Russell's thinking, that's for sure. Lots to think about, lot to wrestle with, I'd say, as we all try to make our way in the world.
Before we go, one last thought for you, the listener. If you were building your own temple of ideals, what would it look like? What goodness would you put at the center of it? Think about that. And remember, like Russell said, even when things are tough, even when the world feels indifferent, we get to choose. We choose what we worship, what we value, what we work for.
Powerful stuff. And it reminds us that even though we're all on our own paths, we're all connected. And in that connection, there's so much potential for beauty, meaning, hope, all of it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep searching for the good out there and keep building. Until next time.